Hello, welcome to Tarot with Tanya. This is 7 cards for 7 days, and we are beginning with Monday, October 16th, and reading through Sunday, October 22nd. And thank you for being here. Thank you for any new subscribers and all of the dear folks coming back. And I always try to remember to say, take what resonates from this general reading for the collective, and leave what might not personally resonate for you behind. So in terms of our week, astrologically, we're coming off of the new moon in Libra that happened on the 14th, the eclipse Saturday, and so forth. And so we'll be starting our week with the moon in Scorpio, and ending it next Sunday with the moon in Aquarius. On Thursday, we have the sun conjunct Mercury. So that can be really good communication. It can bring in a lot of clarity, understanding, good energy. And on Friday, we have Mercury square Pluto, almost the opposite. Things can get a little intense. Communications might be difficult. You might have some situations that involve information communication that prove a little challenging on that day. On Saturday, we get a lot going on. So we have the sun squaring Pluto that day. So that also could be like the sun is the light and the warmth, and Pluto wants to transform everything, change it, perhaps burn it down in some metaphorical sense. And obviously in the world right now, there's a lot of conflict, and it's upsetting people. And this Pluto square the nodes is also still happening, will happen for the rest of the year. And then we're going to have Mars moving into Scorpio, which can intensify all of that too. So as I started to say, on Saturday, there's the sun square Pluto, which can be a little tough. Then we also have, offsetting that, Venus trine Jupiter, so the planet of love, beauty, harmony, in a very good aspect to the planet of benevolence and expansion. And then we also will have Mercury entering Scorpio next Saturday. So a lot going on in that regard. It seems it's been a time of planetary intensities to try to help us transform, to work through the old energies that don't work for us anymore, and to move into the ones that are creating more happiness, more harmony in our lives, more of a sense of peace. And I mentioned last week, but I'll mention it again, that this node thing, where you have Pluto squaring the south node in Libra, the north node in Aries, and then this eclipse happening on that south node. It's so much about leaving behind relationship habits that don't serve us anymore, and bringing into balance the love of the self and the love of the other, so that there's compassion for both self and other as well. And we see conflicts with that on the macro stage, and obviously on the micro is where we have the power and what we do with our own lives and so forth. So I'm using the Crow deck today. We'll get to those energies. And just in general, there are a lot of pairs happening this week. We have a couple of swords, we have a couple of wands, and we have a couple of majors. So that's where that pairing energy comes. And it starts off fairly mental, moves into the energetic, a wand. And then we hit a major toward the getting later in the week, one royal card, and a good Saturday, I'll just say that, and then on Sunday another major. So what are these cards? Two of Swords is the first one for our Monday. So this is a balancing act. We literally have our bird here, our crow, blindfolded and with one foot on each sword, and the swords, you know, are crossed and resting in balance. So a couple of things with that at least. Blind justice, that when we mask things, we might get a truer answer than when we let all of our biases come into it. So it's often associated with making a decision. Because it's swords, it is mental. And two is about balance. Two is going into the energies of the High Priestess, who is also the number 2 in the majors. On Tuesday then, we get the second sword, so this is part of that pairing, 2 and then 3. And this one's rough. It always looks rough to me, this 3 of Swords, and pretty much every deck I've ever seen. So we have a heart here, it's being stabbed by the 3 swords. It can be sorrow, it can be a lack of trust from being hurt previously. It connects to the original triangle, which is the mother, father, child. And we all have to make a separation from that at some point. So it's almost like metaphysically it's built in for us. And then it's just recognizing, you know, perhaps when it's time to let go of something, or just in general how we're feeling about something. So it can be tough, can relate to jealousy, feeling stabbed, things like that. When we get to Wednesday, we move into a very different energy. So it seems like there's some healing that happens with that 3 of Swords. We can bring in that Empress, that 3 of the majors kind of energy, to know that there is abundance and, you know, this too shall pass. Then we can celebrate. We move into the Wands. So out of that mental energy and into an instinctive celebratory energy. You know, you got the 2 crows practically touching their beaks here, and there's a feeling of communion and the beautiful flowers and the pool and so forth. So, you know, what is there to celebrate? And, you know, to be sure to do that by midweek. On Thursday, we get that first major, as I mentioned, and this continues that celebration. It's just really beautiful, the sun. We have our sunflowers here. We have this wonderful sun itself that looks like a sunflower, the crow carrying a red scarf or banner, something like that, moving forward. So it's always a great energy, the sun. It can shed light on things, it can make us feel better. So by Thursday, hopefully, you know, look for that sunshine in your life. You know, where are you feeling that there's some light and positive energy? On Friday, we have that second wand, as I mentioned. So it's 2 swords, 2 wands, and this one is our only royal card this time, and that is the Queen of Wands. She, like all queens, represents a kind of experience that is part of the divine feminine, that is a very lived experience. It's not just, you know, thought forms, especially when it's the Queen of Wands, Queen of Discs, even Queen of Cups. What has the journey brought to one's life? And, you know, to look back on that and to know that, yes, there were hardships. Yes, you got through those hardships. Will there be more in the future? Surely. But we all can get through them. There is that resilience that the Queen of Wands can bring into the picture on Friday. So I'd say also celebrate, you know, maybe watch how your fieriness expresses itself, because it can be an energy, if you've already got a little fire in your chart, where, you know, you can get a little overly exuberant. So then that takes us to Saturday, and we have the 9 of Cups. I always love this card. Our crow is sitting, standing, I guess, perching on bowls or chalices full of wonderful, luscious fruit, beautiful flowers, fish, I'm assuming these are things, little trinkets, that our crow likes. So there's an abundance to this. There's a happiness to this. There's a generosity of spirit. It's cups, so it's emotional. It's 9, so it's a peak number, a happiness to it. And that brings us to Sunday and the Temperance card. In the Thoth deck, this is called Art. You'll often see it as some sort of depiction with different kinds of very large energies that need to be balanced. Here, this is actually a fairly peaceful one. You'll often see too the same moving liquids representing elixirs and soul energy and love and creativity, and pouring it back and forth to show that there's alchemy to it. And it can represent the sacred marriage. And the sacred marriage, the Hyros Gamos, is actually within the self. Yes, it can present on the outside with very conscious individuals, but generally we think of it as, have you, has anyone been able to marry the inner masculine and feminine? Doesn't matter what your gender is, it's not about that. It's that inner masculine and feminine that we all have. And can that come into some sort of balance that feels generative, harmonious? There can be some struggle to it, but there's a lot of creativity and spiritual energy, and I think wisdom generated from that. All right, so again, a couple of majors, couple of swords, couple of wands. So a good week for looking at balance and balancing what perhaps you know with what you intuit. And been having a conversation with a friend about that recently, and how, you know, when we're whole, we're not just in one, we're not just in the other, but we're hopefully somewhat fluidly navigating different perceptions, different kinds of knowledge, and not getting stuck in one mode or the other. So to finish off our reading, I drew a card also from the Crystal Angels, and what came up for us was smoky quartz. And given what's happening in the world, in the Middle East, and in other places too, of course in Ukraine, and the invasion there, that I'm not too surprised that we got this card, because it's about clearing negativity. You drew this card because there's a need to clear away negative energy from within or around you. This could be negativity in your present life, or some grievance from your past that you have been harboring and have had difficulty forgiving. And right now, at least the way it feels for me, is that it can be easy to be very disturbed about humanity, you know, when we have horrible things going on, and you know, we can default to that place of, are we ever going to get it, you know, what's wrong with us, and things like that. So I think that's a very present negativity on the macro level. So fortunately, you don't need to consciously know which form of negativity you are clearing, nor are you advised to analyze it. After all, focusing upon negativity only gives it strength and power. What works better is some self-care to clear yourself right now. This could take the form of praying for some kind of help, maybe to an archangel, any sort of higher power that you identify with, to lift away what doesn't serve you. And again, this eclipse energy that has just happened is so much about that too. It helps us push out what no longer serves us. So you may even want to ask a trusted healer or friend for help with this process. Those who are highly sensitive, and I know that includes you, often absorb lower energies. So it's nothing to fear or be ashamed of. It's simply a matter of taking care of the situation. Methods might include sleeping next to some smoky quartz crystals, spraying some sage oil or smudging, using dried sage, soaking in a sea salt bath, spending time in nature, doing some kind of exercise, maybe some sort of a moving meditation. All of those things, well, of course I recommend them all the time. They're always helpful to keep us feeling more in balance. So, wishing you all a wonderful week, beloveds, and remind you again, keep what feels right to you, what resonates, and let the rest go. And if you're so inclined, please consider liking, sharing, and subscribing. And if you're interested in a personal reading, there will be information in the description box below. Have a wonderful week.